All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's call of the Crypto Mondays Collective. We have a great guest with us today, Ken Kruger, founder and CEO of Moon. But before I turn the floor over to Ken, just a couple quick things to go over first. I think in the chat, you can see a link to the new Crypto Mondays website that's still, being staged. And so, it has not been pushed live. There's still some tweaking to do, but I think a lot of great work has been done. Thank you by Mason Chesler, who's on the call. So, hey, Mason, and anything you would want to share about the site with the fellow collective members?
Hey guys. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, but yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. We're sort of bringing this website, closer to kind of like a modern take, so to speak, from our previous site. So happy to be part of the team, and we're having a lot of fun with it. And I hope visually it sort of carries through for quite a while. So thank you for having me on board, and really excited to see sort of the evolution of everything, and happy to be collaborating with everybody. Thanks, Lou.
Yeah, thanks, Mason. Also, I just saw, there were a few folks on the call, who weren't here last time that I know were at East Denver, and I'd love to just quickly hear their thoughts. And start with Mel, if you
Yeah,
want to share, just kind of what the highlights of East Denver was for you.
yeah, East
You had a lot
Denver
of
as always.
interesting meetings.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'll say highlights for me, Uni Day was off the charts. That's just like a delegate gathering that has been going on at a couple different conferences. Shelling Point, a lot of good stuff there around, I want to say quadratic fine tuning was something that I thought was really interesting. And then yeah, just a lot of good catch-ups around maybe like AI and those types of initiatives. Highly technical at this point, I would say, like early days, but all very positive. So yeah, really cool experience.
Okay, cool. Sorry we didn't get a chance to catch up, but next time. Then I'm looking to actually see who else is here that didn't chat. I think everybody who was there had a chance to talk last time. So thanks, that Mel. And with that, I will turn it over to Ken. And so take the graphic down, Alan.
Yeah, I just sent a request to share my screen.
Yeah. I am trying. I've clicked on allow, but it is waiting.
Yeah, I think yes. As soon as you pull down yours, I should be able to share.
No, not sure if you can still hear me, but I think my Zoom crashed. I'm just going to close it.
Nothing's easy. Hello?
Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Gotcha. Well, I can start talking while we try to iron out how to share the screen here.
Yeah. No, I think Alan's computer crashed.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So I think he'd like the thing still has him. Let me see if I can do anything.
Nope, I'm back on. Let's see if I can.
Hey, there we go. All right. Now I can share.
There we go. Okay. Good to go.
Wonderful. All right. So I spoke at one of these before, and I feel it's probably been years. And it's probably a different audience. I know some folks here are familiar with what we do, and some of my investors in the audience, so that's cool. Appreciate you all taking the time to hear a little bit about what we're building here. So anybody feel free to interrupt at any time, throw a question out there. Happy to happy to, dive in a little bit greater detail on anything. So I'll take you through kind of about the company, a little bit of history, and then we'll dive into some, dedicated Q&A time after here. So, all right. So what is Moon? Effectively, Moon is we're a Visa partner, and we focus on card payments. And within the card payment space, the role that we fill is what's called a program manager. What does that mean? It means that if you have a wallet, an exchange, a platform of any kind, and you want to add payment cards, specifically we're a Visa partner. So if you want to add a Visa card to your product, you'd come to us and we get that entire system set up for you. So our whole idea is, our goal is to enable consumers and businesses to, one, hold stable value or unstable value like Bitcoin and spend it across borders and do so affordably. So while cards can be spent obviously within the borders of a country, a lot of what we bring to the table, a lot of what we focus on are on cross-border opportunities, because that's where we found a very interesting niche. We offer a bridge to the world's preferred payment methods. So if you're in Bitcoin, stable coins, crypto, we are bridging you into Visa via what I consider to be the most powerful crypto card in the world, the Moon Visa card. Right? So we have a platform that allows businesses and consumers to spend digital assets anywhere Visa is accepted. It's very similar to a Ramp or a Brex. That's kind of the experience that we like to have. You can create virtual cards. You can load digital assets. You can name your cards. You can add filters, tags, everything that you'd really expect out of a spend management platform, right? We're interoperable with pretty much all the main stuff. We're a Bitcoin first company, so we're integrated with Bitcoin, the Lightning Network. We actually just completed integration with the Liquid Network. But if you want to do USDC, USDT, we've got all that stuff covered. But really our core business is based around APIs, right? We have this web platform. You can spin up cards. It's great. People love it. But the core growth area for the business is people using our APIs, right? So if you have a wallet exchange, maybe you have a lending platform, there's so many different use cases out there where people need cards. So we have the entire platform to really soup to nuts get you set up. A lot of people come to us and say, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just want a card in my platform for my customers. Or, hey, we need to have virtual cards in the back end that, facilitate some process, right? You can imagine, a really hot topic right now is AI making payments, right? You can imagine AI spinning up a virtual card to pay a GitHub bill or something like that, for example, right? In that case, we're kind of handling that last mile of the AI making the payment. But our bread and butter is really just apps, exchanges, issuing a Visa card for their consumers. Right? We're partnered with Visa. We work with AWS. We're partnered with Circle. And a couple of use cases. I mentioned wallets and exchanges. We could do non-custodial and custodial wallets. That's a lot of fun because there aren't that many wallets that are non-custodial and have a Visa card. One area that's growing a lot are lending platforms. So, collateralizing your Bitcoin, you borrow against that. A lot of those platforms right now, they operate with stable coins, right? You collateralize your Bitcoin, you get USDC out. Well, we ran a pilot program with one of our customers and gave them the option. Would you like to receive stable coins or would you like to receive your loan on a Visa card? And 2/3 of their customers prefer to receive their loan on a Visa card. So that was frankly, I was a little surprised by that, but it kind of makes sense at the end of the day. If you're targeting consumers and they want to use their money, well, why not put it immediately onto a Visa card for them? We do a few different constructs. We have prepaid gift cards. We have secured credit cards. We're working on a high limit credit card that's coming soon. So really, some people fall very neatly into a bucket. Hey, I want to sell gift cards on my website. Great. That's easy. We've got that off the shelf. Other folks have a little bit more of a complicated setup. I want customers to collateralize Bitcoin and then we're going to borrow against. We want to customize the fees. We want to customize this, customize that. We have a very customizable system. So, at that point, it's a little bit more hands-on to do the implementation, but, we handle the whole thing. It's very quick. So we've had folks integrate in less than a week. So sometimes, if you work with some of the traditional card issuers in the space, you're talking, it could be 6 to 9 months for you to get live. We focus on really very, very simple APIs. You don't have to know a whole lot. You don't have to build ledgers yourself, which is what a lot of other folks have to do in the industry. We just make it stupid simple for folks to get going. But there's a lot that happens behind the scenes here, right? So what's our company actually doing? One, we have to work with sponsor banks behind the scenes. We work with banks, or we ourselves in certain regions get licenses, right? We have to integrate with processors, which is a separate type of entity that does a certain type of processing in this whole thing. We have to also integrate with Visa. So there's it's a 4-party integration that happens to get this whole thing set up. On top of that, we have a lot around anti-fraud and transaction monitoring. We do that both on the crypto side via KYT monitoring to make sure that we're insulating our customers from OFAC and all those issues that can come up. But then we're also dealing with cards, and you may or may not know, cards have a lot of fraud potential, right? There's a whole dark market industry called carding, where people are using cards to engage in fraud and scams and things like that. So we have a whole tech stack that we utilize for anti-fraud as well. On top of that, tailored controls. So for example, we have a customer that says, okay, our customers are businesses and they're only going to be spending at, cloud hosting, and they're going to be spending at advertising services. We want to make sure they're not spending on Netflix, because that would be an improper use case for an employee to be spending on a personal good, right? We don't want them spending buying video games. They're supposed to be spending on corporate expenses, right? So we have tailored controls that we can configure as well. Custom fees, like I mentioned, you tell us how you want to charge the end customer. We handle all the ledgering. We charge those fees, collect those funds for you. And ultimately, the best type of integration for one of our customers is they integrate with us, they're issuing cards, and we're just cutting them a check every month, right? Here's your revenue from the fees collected on the card program. We also offer branded gift cards. There's just kind of a little supplemental throw in. Integrate with us, you're getting your Visa cards, but hey, if you want to sell Amazon gift card, we have those too. This is a fun thing we just built out, which makes the integration even simpler. There's really no API. It's just a widget. It's an iframe you drop into your app or website that allows you to offer an off-ramp for your customers directly into a Visa card. So that's pretty exciting. A lot of folks are like, hey, we want to have a card. We want to test the market, but we don't want to dedicate the developer resources to building this out right now. They can just use our pre-built user experience, drop this iframe into their wallet, and they're off to the races. And then if they see a good amount of transaction volume happening on these cards, they're like, okay, it's worth it to, spend a week to a month, depending on how complicated and how nice they want their experience to be, to do that full integration. So a little bit of history on the company. In 2021, we signed a deal with Visa to be a partner of Visa North America. But a little over a year ago, we signed another deal. It's an international deal with Visa. So they've given us incentives to really expand all around the world. Right now, we're doing a big push in Latin America. So if there's any companies you guys know or in Latin America that may be interested in launching a card program, would love to hear about it. But we have strong incentives to expand around the world, and we're doing this in kind of priority order where we're seeing the most demand. A little bit of background. I got some of my investors in the crowd here. Like I said, in total, we've raised a little over 3.6 million in funding, which has worked out pretty nicely. I'm going to get into a little bit more of the history here. So we initially launched our project in 2021. 2022, we were doing great in our first year. We had done over $40 million in transaction volume. 2023, we became profitable. And then shortly thereafter, we got debanked. We got hit with choke point 2.0. We went down to zero. But in the past a little more than a year, we were able to rebuild. We had to leave the United States. We originally had a US bank partner. Now our big focus is in Latin America. We rebuilt. Now we're multi-regional, we're multi-partner, so much more resilient. We're a couple months away from being profitable again, which is pretty exciting. And moving forward, we're all about expansion. We're about licensing. That's really the key thing now. It's just growth, growth, growth. And now with the new administration in power in the United States, we're seeing opportunities with banks in the United States opening up again. We have a few banks we're in progress with right now. So things are looking very positive so far to make a real nice re-entry to the US market. And we've been doing pretty good since we relaunched the product last year. We've been seeing an average of 40% growth month over month. So that's been exciting, hoping to keep that going into the new year. A little bit about the team. I'm an engineer, studied computer science at Cornell, financial engineering at Columbia. I was a software engineer and product manager at Lockheed Martin, where I worked on ballistic missiles launched from nuclear submarines. I have a fantastic team. We're pretty small. There's only 8 of us right now, but we've been able to do a lot with a relatively small team. And it's also worked out very well from a capital efficiency perspective, as we have the majority of capital we've ever raised still in the bank right now. And that's it. Happy to take any questions.
Well, that's great. Thanks for that, Ken. And guys, it's horrific about choke point 2.0, but it's great that you were able to slog your way through it. You've been doing this for a while. Can you talk about how the market has evolved, over the years?
Totally. Yeah, I think
You can stop sharing.
Yeah, sure. The biggest thing that I've seen has been really the effect of choke point. That by far has been the biggest way in which the market shifted. When choke point came in, one, it took out most of our competition, which pros and cons, right? There are many companies that were not in.
Everything's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. There were a lot of folks that, they didn't have the capital. They weren't, they were taking a little bit greater risk, right? There were folks that, they were not in very good positions, and a lot of them went off the market. So you saw a lot of card programs shut down because those companies couldn't handle it anymore. Just ran out of cash. They didn't have time to pivot. The banks cut off all the cards. So you saw, BitPay lost their card, Crypto.com lost their card. Crypto.com is back up in the US, and so a lot of folks are still not back in the US just yet. So that was pretty dramatic. The other was, it was not just choke point, but it was also the regional banking crisis. It was also FTX. FTX has had a lot of deals with a lot of banks across really across the world. And when FTX went down, those banks said, never again. I'm never touching this industry ever again. So now it's like, okay, maybe they're starting to think about it. But a big lesson learned for me was really just how banks have an inability to evaluate the risk of a potential client. And that's something that when we go to a bank, we bring as our value proposition, say, we know what we're doing, right? Let us be a layer between the bank and a digital assets focused company so we can properly evaluate the risk and not, do something really stupid. A lot of the banks were frankly doing really dumb things. And, when there was funds on it, like for example, there would be funds on a card and the card would say, yeah, you've got $10,000. Those dollars were not in a bank account somewhere. So if that company like FTX collapsed, there was a liability with no underlying asset to back the liability, right? So just from a fundamental structuring of that card program, it was not well done. The bank really wasn't aware that these liquid tokens weren't necessarily going to maintain their value, So I would say that was maybe one of the largest shifts that I saw by far. So.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Elijah.
Hey, Ken.
If you got a question, yeah, raise your hand. So, hey, Elijah.
Hey, Ken. Great presentation. How I got a question around fraud. Like, how are you? One, are you experiencing any fraud? What type of fraud, and how do you prevent it or identify it?
Yeah, great question. It's wild because coming into this, I'm an engineer. What do I know about payments? Now I'm like the payments expert, right? But you had to learn it all the hard way, So we've had, a couple of years ago, we had a situation where somebody created a card and created 100,000 YouTube premium free trials, which were used to create a botnet, right? Fun story. We because of that, we almost took down Cash App. We were on the same bank as Cash App, and that customer almost took down Cash App's entire system. It was pretty hilarious. So there's all these controls you have in place. Okay, velocity controls on transactions, velocity controls on both fiat and crypto, velocity controls on the types of cards, the number of cards that can be created over any duration of time. The velocity that funds can move to any specific merchant, right? Anomaly detection. Did we just see a bunch of users suddenly start spending at one merchant? Okay, we need to see what's going on there. That's either a certain type of attack that people are creating a bunch of dummy accounts with fake KYC data or no KYC. We have some privacy options as well. Create a bunch of dummy accounts and they're all trying to funnel money, right? So there's a lot of things that we've had to develop primarily in-house, which has been pretty fun to build that stuff out. But we see a lot of things, a lot of free trial abuse, refund abuse is another one. Walmart was by far in 2023, I think they're the biggest loser of fraud. They lost about $8 billion where people would purchase a product and then return an empty box. And Walmart had a policy, as soon as you put a box in the mail, you get your money back, right? And then a week later, Walmart gets the box and it's like, there's a brick in here. Where's the TV? It's not there. So that's a lot of the type of stuff. So we developed different techniques to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and also protecting merchants. And that's something that I think we excel in my opinion, way better than all the other card issuers out there.
And you guys are building those in-house, those solutions, or are you using a vendor?
We built that in-house. We found just from a cost effective, a lot of the vendors out there, it's going to be a penny per transaction. And then it's like, it doesn't, it's eating up a lot of your margin in a relatively thin margin business, So, and frankly, a lot of those platforms, they don't really comprehend the types of fraud that we wanted to prevent. So there were a lot of techniques that we had to build in-house. What's interesting is that fraud for a lot of businesses is profitable. That's what's crazy about it. Visa makes money on fraud. Any payments network makes money on fraud. The issuers make money on fraud. The processors make money on fraud, right? But it's funny because you saw this compliance requirement, you have to stop the fraud, right? And there are types of fraud we can lose money, but there are some perverse incentives. So the way we look at it is long-term. We want a sustainable product. We want merchants to, there's a big problem in the industry with card acceptance rates, right? If there's too much fraud on your card program, the merchant doesn't accept your card anymore, right? And if you go out and use any standard Visa gift card, it doesn't work at half the merchants because there's so much fraud on these Visa gift cards. So our Visa gift card is the most accepted. Like we have the best acceptance rate of any Visa gift card in the world. So because we really do a lot to make sure that it doesn't get abused.
Hmm. Interesting. Cool. I don't want to take more of your time, but I'll ping you later. There's some opportunities I'd like to talk about.
Cool.
Hi, I think, thanks, Lou. I think you, can you hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, great. Ken, that's great. I love what you're doing. I'm in Brazil. I'm a Brit from Brazil, but I've been here a very long time. And I used to work in the financial markets, but when this call ends, I've got a meeting with somebody who could be a good team up for you. Do you have an agent, or do you have somebody in Brazil who I should talk to? Or how do you take new customers on?
You can reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to make that happen. We actually do have some team members in Brazil, so you know, they help me out with Portuguese.
Are they in São Paulo?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. So no, well, that's great. And just on the fraud side, when you say everybody makes money out of it, what is the white label customer of yours? You know, who's how does he deal? Does he lose money, or how does that work?
No. The from their perspective, they're never losing money, right? And that's something we really try to do, is make sure that we insulate our customers from all these complexities, right? And that's something often, if you go to a traditional card issuer, they give you a very complicated financial structure, right? Here's all your fees. You're going to pay per message over the network. You're going to pay per this. From this country to this country is going to cost different from this country to that country. It's like absolutely ridiculous. In your average company, they're not trying to be a card company. They're trying to focus on their business, right? So what we say is, we're going to abstract all that away from you. You don't have to worry about it. Don't think about it. You know, we've got it covered. We're doing all the anti-fraud. We have limits in place. We have all this stuff set up. Because otherwise, you know, people get wrecked. There are companies who have been taken down by fraud. There was a card issuer in Africa called Union 54 that I think they had reached, I may be wrong, but they were like if not very close to being $1 billion company. And then they went belly up because they were having so much fraud. And it completely took them out. They scaled very fast. They didn't have protections in place, and it just killed them. It just like drained all their money, and they were done. So you don't want your end customer who's thinking about issuing a loan, or they're thinking about a great user experience. You don't want them to have to worry about that.
Okay. No, well, that's okay. So that's great. I'll reach out to you. I'll shoot you an email and see if we can do something.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll drop my email address in the chat here too, in case anyone didn't catch it. Great. I think.
Hey, I saw Praveen, your hand went up and down, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
whether
I
something's
wasn't
going on. Yeah,
That's cool.
you
Yeah,
got
I
a
wasn't
question?
sure how
Yeah.
this hand thing worked, if you were supposed to annoy everyone.
Yeah, I
and
think
keep
I
your
just
hand
take them in the
up.
order in the order that people put them up. So you're next.
Cool. Hey, Ken, it's great to meet you on a Zoom call. Like, we've used your services for a long time in the EOS ecosystem. My question is, like, what are the plans, I guess, with the crypto summit going on in Washington today?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our friends are there to do a pure crypto payment rail system and avoid Visa when appropriate, or when called for. And the follow-up to that is some of your design decisions from a startup or product management point of view, was that based upon like the old like Treasury Secretary type rules, SEC rules? And can you actually do something different now if you wanted to? Thanks.
Cool. So in terms of like the payment networks, I have a theory on payments networks. I got into this because I'm big on medium of exchange. I want to see Bitcoin used as medium of exchange, right? But the one thing that my thinking has developed is that I think how it'll actually play out is that Visa and MasterCard and all these traditional payments networks are just going to use digital asset technology underneath the hood, right? If you think about it, this whole idea of, every merchant in the world is going to accept Bitcoin. It hasn't really gotten there, right? But what every merchant already has is Visa and MasterCard and all these point of sale systems. So you could see what's already happened with Visa and MasterCard. They're actually doing the daily settlements behind the scenes with USDC, right? So they're starting to integrate these technologies behind the scenes, and it's still Visa and MasterCard. Those are the brands that you see, right? But they already have the means of distribution. Now it's just a matter of the superior technology being integrated behind the scenes. I hope that eventually, Bitcoin just replaces all of that. I could see that happening, but I think there's hard to say how the future is going to pan out. But I do think there's going to be, at least for a significant period of time, these payments networks are going to be remain in control and at least facilitating some of these things, because a lot of the things that Visa, MasterCard, all these companies offer, there are a lot of features that you don't get out of Bitcoin or other crypto networks, like chargebacks. You don't have recurring payments. You don't have, a variety of other things that are very valuable. And I think it's very hard to break free of the rewards, right? I have a credit card that gives me 3% back in Bitcoin when I shop. Why would I switch to a network where I have to pay to spend my own money, right? That just changed a bit, takes an entire behavior change that I think is going to be very difficult for people to, at least in the West, to deal with. You're also, in the East, if you're looking at India or China, they have government payments networks that are entirely free and instant to use. You look at India with UPI, that was, the government flipped a switch and everybody started using it one day, and it's free and simple. And why would anyone use barely anybody uses cards, but why would I use Bitcoin? Why would I use a crypto network? So I think the government payment rails may switch to being blockchain based or something like that, or they'll switch, individuals may switch to Bitcoin because they want a better form of money than the Ruby. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to go to your just one point about
Sure.
the rewards, things like that.
Mhm.
I know like the whole gamification aspect of airline points, things like that. Like, it was a big topic in Silicon Valley, like 12 years ago. And I think a lot of people have a little bit, at least certain people, it's not mainstream anymore. It's more like a casino type,
Mhm.
Creating addiction to spending and such. And you see it amongst your own friends too. I'm sure people buy stuff they don't need just for points, but that's probably a different topic for this. But yeah, thank you so much. Like, love all the updates if you've given, and good luck with the next stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raviv. Mike?
Hey guys, how you doing?
How's it going?
Ken, congrats.
Thank you.
You made it. Couple of quick questions. First off, on the B2C side of things, I actually logged into my old Pay with Moon account just now. I do have a VPN on. I don't know if that mattered or not, but I still have $5 in there. And I was curious on some of these fees. It says here there is a 1% fee on all purchases you make with the Moon X card with a minimum of $1 per transaction. And that sounds like a lot.
Yeah. So the benefit of that card, right? This is a reloadable, privacy-focused card, right? So that specific card, there's no KYC on that card, and the fee is going to be 1% with a minimum of $1. So it's very expensive if you're spending a small amount of money, right? If you're buying a sandwich for $10 and you're paying that dollar fee, it gets to be expensive. Higher transaction volumes, you're effectively paying 1% for your conversion from your digital asset to dollars and spending privately, right? Now, you may ask, why this $1 minimum on the fee? It ends up that the way card transactions work, expensive, the lower the transaction size. So effectively, any transaction, if you have any Visa card issued from any bank, any transaction under 25, 35 bucks actually loses them money, right? So they're working based on a kind of a portfolio approach. So what we've done is said we want to actually discourage in that specific card product lower dollar transactions So we put that dollar. So that covers us. So we make all transactions profitable, and kind of discourage the lower dollar values.
So then there is no load fee then if you wanted to deposit. Are you putting any bips or anything on like a conversion price that you're giving the customer when they go ahead and load that card? Is there a little bit of pad in there for you?
Yeah, so there's depending on the asset, some have some spread, some don't have a spread. What we try to do is provide the best possible rate. So what we often do is we take whatever rate you'd get on Coinbase, we pass that to the customer, and then we get, because we're doing so much transaction volume, we get better rates from our partners. So the customer is getting whatever they would normally see on a any exchange they like to use, and then we're optimizing all the rates on the back end.
So that dollar fee is global then, even if you're getting people in any country, anywhere?
Correct. Yes. Now, we have a different card product, the 1X card, which has no fees on it. So we have a variety of different card products that have a little bit of a different structure.
Okay. So for the B2B part of this business, if I have a Bitcoin wallet, let's just say, and I want to go ahead and plug this solution into my wallet, or any crypto wallet for that matter, there's no physical card ever, right? It's just an instant.
We can actually do physical cards in certain jurisdictions. Yeah.
So what about the onboarding for a small sort of emerging company like a wallet, like even Bitcoin Beach Wallet or one of these type of companies? How would, what is the kind of the setup fees to get rolling, or do you give them like low barrier to entry because you make the money in a numbers game?
Yeah. So we've done a little bit of pricing experiment over the last 6 months or so to see what do we hit on. We found on one side we do want to have an upfront fee because you want to avoid people who just sign up and say, hey, we're gonna integrate with you guys, we're gonna launch this card program, and then a month later they say, we give up, right? So we want them to have some skin in the game. So we charge a $5,000 implementation fee. And then after that, we charge a $5,000 monthly fee that starts once they go live. Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. How are you going to get them to go along with that? That's too much, man.
This is the best in the industry. Other card issuers actually charge more than that. So we are either this is effectively the best price you're going to get in the industry.
Okay. Well, let's just say that this company went ahead and went with that. Okay. They paid you $5,000 and then they go live 3 months from now. How much volume do they have to do to even just break even on the 5K monthly? Are you looking for customers on the B2B side who look at this as a loss leader? It makes their product more sticky, or is this an actual revenue driver for some of these your partners?
So it generally is always a revenue driver, right? And it's up to the customer how they want to structure that. So we have some customers that say, we want to charge, and you're going to hear this and you're going to say, that's absolutely crazy. They charge 17% to spend on the card. And the reason they're able to do that is because their product is like a tax optimization product. And the customer is saving 25% because of the tax optimization. So they can afford to pay that 17% fee and then portion of its cash back, right? So that's like, okay, that's very lucrative, right? Other folks, very thin margin, high volume. They say, hey, we want this to be the best possible user experience. We want extremely low fees. We don't care if we break even on this until we're doing $5 to $10 million a month in transaction volume. So there's this huge range that people can choose from, how, kind of what is the use case and what is the experience they want to provide. In the loans example, someone's issuing a loan onto a card. They may not care to have this as a revenue driver. They may just say, this is just a feature, right? And this is going to mean we're going to issue more loans. Other folks are like, this is how we're going to monetize our entire product, right? In which case, you're going to really want to configure those fees to optimize for revenue.
So, okay, in the US, the lion's share of the transaction volume, the fees, if it's 3.5%, let's say, or what is the number? Is there, let's Visa MasterCard right now, what's the gross? The gross?
So
Is it
you're talking about the interchange rate. Is that
Yeah,
right?
the interchange, and I just mean like the split, right?
Mhm.
How does that typically work with your B2B partner? What can they expect?
Mm.
And then how do they justify it in markets where it's capped at like 50 bips?
This is why we don't do things in Europe, right? Because Europe is one of those regions where interchange is capped and you're not going to make a whole lot of money necessarily on your card. The US is a great example where it's not capped. So, for example, in the US, and for those of you who don't know, interchange is the portion of the fee that the merchant pays that we get on our side as a card issuer that we get to split between Visa, the bank, us, our partners, etc. Right? That can be upwards of 1.5% sometimes, depending on a variety of different. It's a complicated formula, but you could say that's kind of like the maximum that you could expect, right? So in the US market, you'd expect that's going to be shared, right? Um, I would say it depends on volumes, right? The higher volume you are, you could be talking about getting, 1% of all of the spend. At lower volumes, you're probably looking at 25 bips.
So if I integrate this product for my US company, okay, and we're talking the best possible
Mhm.
remittance that you could imagine is 1.5%.
Mhm.
And then you're splitting that. Do you give the lion's share of that to your customer, your partner that is working because you're taking the 5 grand a month, or do you still like split that 50/50? How does that rev share actually work?
Yeah, so that 1.5%, has to get split between a bunch of different parties, right? So that has to get split to pay Visa fees, that has to get split to pay the bank, that has to get split to pay us, that has to get, and then some of that goes back to the ultimate customer of ours, right? So it gets split up a bunch of different ways, and it's extremely complex model that determines who gets what. You can typically assume 75 bips of that is going to effectively go to Visa for the fees that are being charged, right? So it's not 1.5% after Visa takes their fees, it's 1.5% before Visa takes their fees, right? And depending on the types of transactions, those could be way higher than not. So for example, if a card program has a lot of cross-border international transactions, if it's a bunch of Americans shopping in Europe, very expensive card program, right? Or if there's lots of fraud on a card program, it could actually go negative, right? So that's why often what you do is you start with 25 bips, and then you can see how the card program performs. You kind of treat it like a portfolio, and then say, okay, how is this doing? If it's performing well, low fraud, things are looking good, that number can kind of go up from there.
Okay, last question. I promise I'll shut up. Are you assuming the chargeback liability and giving some protection to the people, or is that like on a case by case basis? Are you fighting it on their behalf, or how does that work?
Yeah, so depending on the country, the card construct, the country and the card construct, the consumer may or may not have chargeback rights, right? So if you have a standard card in the United States, the user has done KYC, and this is a standard reloadable card, they have chargeback rights, so we're obligated to file chargebacks on behalf of the consumer in that case. If, say, for example, it's a Visa gift card, the user has no chargeback rights, and we will not file chargebacks on behalf of the user.
Cool.
Unfortunately, there's no simple answers to a lot of these questions because it does vary by country, regulation. Even the Visa network itself has different regions, and the rules are slightly different by region. So you end up with a very complicated model and formulas and regulatory matrices. So while we try to make it very simple for folks, and we have our APIs that make the integration simple, sometimes the regulatory structure and how we want to bring that card product to market can be a little complicated, but we know the rules and we guide our customers through it in a pretty straightforward way.
Well, congrats again, Ken. I'm going to play with my $5 balance and I'll hit you with a few of my questions offline too.
Sounds good.
Okay, Robin, you're up.
Hi, Ken. Thanks very much. It's most interesting. I'm in the online payments game, so it's fascinating for me. I just wondered, are you using any AI in your, just from a crypto Mondays perspective? What AI are you using, or how's it been useful for you?
Yeah, great question. So we use a lot of AI internally now for engineering. We use AI, even today we were playing with a new AI tool to help generate user interface designs. Because we're in the process of hiring someone who does UI UX design. But now there's this AI product that can, do some pretty neat things. So probably still need to hire someone. It's not that good just yet. But we're looking to augment a lot of our internal team with AI. We've also looked in customer support. It's a little tricky in financial services to have AI handle customer support with financial data. That is a little, it's a little tricky. I haven't found a good enough solution yet where we want to implement it on customer success. And then we're also in process of using AI techniques around anomaly detection. So again, kind of going back to anti-fraud or opportunity analysis, right? You can use AI to say, hey, we see a lot of people who are spending, on Starlink. Is that a new, do we want to create a new SEO page for, spending at Starlink? And we think there's like a big growth opportunity here, right? So that kind of outlier detection, anomaly detection is kind of that both protects on the downside, but also can highlight some potential upsides. So, yeah, but we're excited. I want to see how things pan out. I want to see an AI team utilize our cards to do something cool at some point. We haven't come across it yet. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter about people talking about it. I haven't seen any actual use cases yet. I think that'll be very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how the payments networks, what position they end up taking on AI using card credentials. Because generally the expectation is that you have a human card holder, So how does that work? Who's the card holder? Is the AI the card holder, or is the card holder the person who made the AI? How does that work? So that'll be very interesting.
And then are you doing a bit of gaming and iGaming and sports betting at all?
We see a lot of people playing, like, I'll separate the gaming. There's the gaming in terms of a lot of people use our cards for online games. They're Google Play games, for example. Huge demand, more than I thought. People love Google Play games. Gambling, we generally restrict gambling-based things. It's really more on a case-by-case basis. We may do a little bit of extra diligence, but and we haven't seen too much demand for it. We've seen some people bring opportunities to us about it, but they haven't really followed through and answering questions. So, so I think there's definitely some interesting opportunities there, but I haven't frankly dug into it all that much.
Yeah. You're only in the issuing side of it, are you?
Correct. Yeah, we're only on the issuing side right now.
And in Africa, have you seen much action in Africa?
There's lots of demand in Africa. Yeah, lots of demand in Africa. Africa is a very difficult market, but there's a lot of demand. So we're pursuing opportunities there. But it is
Challenging market.
It is definitely a challenging market.
Right. Thank you.
All right, Charles. You're up, and then Praveen's next. And unfortunately, I've got to hop because I'm going to go through security here. Ken, it was awesome having you, and look forward to catching up soon.
Likewise.
Just thanks, Lou. Just really quickly, Ken, have you done a white label for an AI agent already?
Not yet. That's what I was just saying. I'm excited to see it happen at some point, but hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, hey Ken, just to follow up about the gambling thing. We had a meeting. I host the Crypto Mondays Vegas.
Mhm.
So we had a meeting with the UNLV executive education department that does the executive education for casino managers.
Mhm.
And basically, they have a test lab where they put in a lot of like test equipment, things like that people make, but it's a Nevada law basically. But hopefully, that's going to change under the current administration. It's not necessarily like a federal law, but I'm sure like with the way that culture is now, it'll change. We did do stuff with the Hard Rock Guitar Hotel in South Florida, and there's a test lab here as well. I'm in Miami right now, and it's pretty cool. They actually have air gap Linux systems and things like that where you can put in like payment cards. You can put in like set up slot machines in series as tournament play. So we've been developing like NFT slot machines basically using the Unity game engine. They have a build just for casinos that basically has a random number generator that can be verified by the tribal gaming commission. So it's a thing, it's just everyone's just testing it out. It's not necessarily we don't want to do it, but I'll put the our email address in the chat if you want to come out for the Bitcoin conference. We'll be hosting.
I'll be there for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we're going to be hosting a Crypto Mondays gathering for all the Crypto Mondays chapters. It's going to be at Starbase in Vegas.
Cool.
But here's
cool.
here's the group email right here.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was a Starbase there.
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. We launch like giant rockets to Mars, just like Elon Musk does.
Very cool.
But you'll have to come to find out.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. I don't see any more questions here. Ken, thank you very much. I mean, it was a great presentation. I learned a lot, just what goes on behind the scenes and what the capabilities are of the technology now. You guys are doing a bang up job.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for some great questions. So if you ever need anything, my email's in the chat. Hit me up anytime, right?
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Great.
Have a great weekend.
Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.